Hello, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Lead Green Associate Exam Preparation course from Qatar Green Leaders. My name is Dia Al Masri. I am Qatar Green Leaders General Manager. I will be your host for today's course. I am architect by profession. I am also lead AP and GSS CGP professional. This course actually has been given or offered in Qatar for more than 10 years. We started our first session in late 2009 or 2010, and since then, this course has been attended by hundreds of professionals from construction industry in Qatar and also in some Arabic countries. We have helped a large number of people to pass the Green Associate exam and helped them to join the ever emerging green building field and sustainability field in Qatar and everywhere. We will just try to make things simple for everyone. So we will keep our explanation at the basic level so that everyone can understand. And don't worry, the course actually is designed in a way to start from the beginning of understanding of sustainability and green building. So we'll take it little by little. In the beginning, we'll talk about generalities and the general concepts, and little by little we'll expand more and give more details so that you can accumulate the information and knowledge required for your understanding. Before we proceed, I need you to become familiar with a number of acronyms and logos. This is the first one, which is USGBC, United States Green Building Council. This is the organization that have created the LEED rating system back in year 2000. They launched the first version of LEED. It's an American-based non-for-profit organization. We will talk about it in detail now. LEED is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. It's a rating system, or it's a measuring scale. Yeah. You need to have some tool to help you to make some assessment or evaluation of how green is your building. So LEED will be a very nice tool to be used. It is not the only rating system available. There is a large number of rating systems available worldwide. Some of them are internationally, some of them are locally, but the subject of this course will be limited only to LEED. GBCI is another organization which has some sort of collaboration with USGBC. You can say it is a sister organization for USGBC. It has been established for a purpose to handle the certification process of projects and also to handle the accreditation or exams for professionals who desire to become LEED accredited. LEED Green Associate is the first credential that you can apply for if you wish to become LEED accredited. So it's a gateway to become a LEED accredited professional. It is basic level. It gives you only the basic understanding of LEED and the system process or application process. And it doesn't require a lot of experience or background or knowledge. It is suitable for anyone who would like to become familiar with LEED or know more about LEED. There are also some other credentials. Let us say the second level of credential, which is called LEED AP, LEED Accredited Professional. There are 5 types of LEED APs. Each one of them corresponds to a specific type of LEED. We have 5 types of LEED or 5 families, let us say, of LEED. The first type is called BD plus C, or Building Design and Construction. The second one is Operation and Maintenance. The third one is Interior Design and Construction. The fourth one is Neighborhood Development. And the sixth one is called LEED for Homes. So each type of this LEED addresses, from the name of the type, you can tell each one addresses a special or a specific type of projects, or will define the applicability of LEED for a certain project. So if you have a project which includes, for example, design and the construction stage, you will most probably use LEED A, B, B, D, and C. If you have, for example, a project which is only interior design, you can apply I, D, and C. If you have a master plan, you can apply neighborhood development. So based on the type of project you are trying to certify, you will select the proper type of LEED which is applicable to this type of project. And for each type of LEED, as we said, there will be a specific exam to become specialized in this type of LEED. This exam you can apply only upon passing the Green Associate exam. So the only requirement for LEED AP credential is to have a first achievement of passing Green Associate exam, which gives importance to the LEED Green Associate. Since we are in Qatar and we are addressing green building, so you need to know also that we have here in Qatar an organization called the Qatar Green Building Council, which is established by Qatar Foundation. This organization is promoting green building and sustainability among the public and the construction industry. They are doing some sort of initiatives or programs in order to help people understand the benefits of green building and to also to increase the awareness level among people. We have also another organization here. This is actually not relevant to LEED, but they have also playing a certain role in sustainability movement in Qatar and the green building movement. It is called the Gulf Organization for Research and Development, or in short we call it GORD, G-O-R-D. This organization has developed a local system which is very similar to LEED. However, it has a completely different process. Initially, it was called QSAS, Qatar Sustainability Assessment System, and later on they have rebranded it into GSAS, or Global Sustainability Assessment System. If you are working here in Qatar for a long time, you may have heard about QSAS or GSAS, which is applicable to projects in Lusail area and also to public projects, Ashghal projects like infrastructure, Qatar University projects, Kahrama. All of the public projects has adopted already GSAS for them. So having this quick preamble, we are now ready to move to our course. Let me first introduce Qatar Green Leaders. We are a member company of United States Green Building Council. The company has been established in the year 2011 and started actual operation in 2013. We are providing a large number of green building services, including certification facilitation for LEED and GSAS and other rating systems as well. Also, we are doing design management and we are doing some technical support, especially for contractors who have certain requirements for meeting LEED or GSAS requirement in their project. We are also providing some LEED training. We are doing some BIM or Revit courses. We are acting as sustainability advisory for certain organizations, and we are also participating in the public awareness through events and exhibitions. This is our contribution to the society for educating and increasing the awareness. More details about our company can be found in qatargreenleaders.com. You can visit our site for more details. Actually, we are preparing to launch a new website soon, so stay tuned for more updates. We are also available in all social media platforms, and we will be happy if you join us or follow us. One of the achievements we have done last 2 years, let us say, was completion of our scope of work in Al Wakra Stadium. Al Wakra Stadium, actually, as you might know, all the stadium projects for Qatar 2022 are pursuing the sustainability implementation through the application of GSAS certification process. We were very proud that we have completed the GSAS process for Al Wakra Stadium, and the project has successfully achieved its goal. Here is our wonderful team. We were attending the first match in Al Wakra Stadium. This is me. And this is Iman, my wife and my partner in the company. She has also helped me in developing this course. This child is my daughter for full-time and my CEO for part-time. Okay, now before we start in the course, let us just put some rules. First of all, please switch off or silent your mobile phones, disable your video. Attendees' microphones will be muted until we have the question and answer session. Please, if you have any inquiries or any questions in your mind during the explanation, please write it in the chat box, and then at the end of the session we'll answer them and we will have some sort of discussion during the break. We have also a 10-minute break in between the sessions. Every day we will have 2 sessions. Between them there will be a 10 minutes time break. So let us now talk about the course outline. Our course is intended to provide you with essential knowledge of the LEED rating system and the sustainable building concepts for those who are seeking a better understanding of LEED or pursuing the GBCI's LEED Green Associate credential. So part of it is to give you understanding of the LEED rating system and the green building in general. And the other part will be more focused on the exam, how to pass the exam, which will be addressed in the last part of the course. So the course is divided into main sections. First section will be addressing introduction to green building principles. So introduction to green building principle, which will be our first part of the course. We will talk about different rating systems of LEED and how they apply to different building types. Then after that, we'll go through the LEED application process from A to Z. If you need to certify the project, what steps you need to take. Then we will get into more details about LEED, in which we will address the categories of LEED, which includes the requirements. And we'll talk about them in terms of what are the requirements and how to achieve it through your project, and give some more information about the strategies to help you meet the requirement. The final part of the course will be addressing the exam itself. We'll explain to you the process of examination, how to apply for the exam, and will give you some sort of insights about how to prepare yourself for the exam in order to guarantee passing from the first try. By the end of this course, you will be able to identify the key components of the LEED rating system. You will be also able to describe green building intents and the concepts associated with LEED. You will describe the intents of and the concepts of each LEED category. You will explain successful strategies for LEED to meet and achieve credit category goals. You will be able to identify and explain interactions, synergies, and trade-offs between LEED credit categories and the strategies. We will come to these terms later in more detail. Finally, you will be required to recognize some regulations or reference standards which are related to category of LEED. This part actually may be requiring some more effort from you, because there will be some sort of memorization. You need to memorize certain standards and how they apply to LEED. So our course is divided into 8 sessions. First session will be general overview of sustainability. Then we'll talk about basics of green building, and then USGBC and GBCI. After that, in session 2, we address LEED overview, minimum program requirements, and the LEED rating systems and how they apply to each type of build. Session 3 will be about the integrated project delivery or integrated design process. We will understand all of these terms during this session. And then we'll go through the LEED application process in detail, and then we will discuss the first credit of LEED, which is called integrative process. Session 4 will address location and transportation, which is the first category of LEED, then sustainable sites, another category. After that, session 5 will be water efficiency category, session 6 about energy and atmosphere category, session 7 materials and resources category, and session 8 will be about indoor environmental quality. So by this, we will have completed all the information you need to study and prepare for the exam. Remaining only one thing is to have the final day where we will explain more details about the exam process, what are the requirements, what you expect in the exam, and so on. We'll give you a complete insight and will help you to plan for your taking the exam. In addition to this one, in the last day, day 5, we will have also some sort of mock-up exam. We will have 30 questions and we will answer them together, to give you some idea about the exam styles and the question styles, so you have also some initial experience of what to expect in the exam. Let us now start with the first part of our course, which is actually a general introduction about sustainability, because we cannot directly talk about LEED because LEED is part of the green building movement, and the green building movement is part of the sustainability movement that is emerging worldwide. So before we go, have here sustainability and the built environment, some definitions before we proceed. Sustainability actually, according to the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, is to create and maintain the conditions under which humans and nature can exist in productive harmony that permit fulfilling the social, economic, and the other requirements of the present as well as the future generation. Actually, back in starting from 70s and even before, people start to notice some bad impacts, let us say, on the environment that happened due to human activities like industries, like transportation, like different kinds of human activities. And these impacts are becoming worse by time. And as we are consuming the resources of our planet, and as you can see in this illustration, we start depleting the resources of our planet. These resources may include, for example, water, energy, raw materials, and so on. Also, some of the other bad impacts may include the pollution and the contamination of water, contamination of land, pollution of the air, or like that. And all of these impacts have accumulated and becoming worse by time. And people found that if we continue with the same rate of depleting our resources like that and this bad manner of handling our planet, we may end up having no planet at all by 2030. That's why people start to think how to do our business in a different way, how to optimize human activities in order to make better utilization of resources and at the same time prevent any potential adverse impacts on the environment. Part of this movement or part of this understanding has been relevant to also the building industry or the construction industry in general. We are using the term built environment, which refers to any environment that is man-made to provide the structure for human activity. These environments range from shelters and individual buildings to neighborhoods and vast metropolitan areas. So here, when we say the built environment, it is one of the components of the human activities because we need to have, as humans, we need to have shelters, we need to have offices, we need to have entertainment areas, and so on. So whatever we do to practice or to do our human activities, we call it the built environment in general, which includes different types of buildings and facilities, which can be classified as the built environment. Usually, when we talk about sustainability, we talk about built environment in order to be clear. So what is sustainability? Sustainability, according to the UN definition, United Nations definitions, which has been coined in 1987 as part of World Commission on Environment and Development. It is defined to meet the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs, which is very straightforward definition. It is trying to say that let us be careful with our resources, let us do our human activities and businesses in a way that will be optimized and will have some efficiency and also will allow the future generations to have some of these resources. We cannot just continue to deplete resources without considering the generations to come. Also, the UN Environmental Program has also defined sustainability in 1991 as improving the quality of human life while living within the carrying capacity of supporting ecosystem. Our ecosystem as humans is considered the planet Earth and its atmosphere. So we need also again to improve our quality of life by doing various economic or human activities, but we need to take care because we are having limited resources on the planet and we need to be more efficient in using these resources. As part or as a result of this initiative from the United Nations, and it took too much time until they have developed or agreed about what we call sustainable development goals that has been published and has been agreed among all the members of the United Nations. So these goals has been defined to help people or to help countries and the governments to take decisions in order to make sure that they are having sustainable development and they are achieving these goals. So there were 17 goals that has been agreed upon. Later on, as we said, as part of human activities, we have the built environment, and the built environment is part of the construction industry or building industry. There is an organization called World Green Building Council, which has picked some of these goals, which are very relevant to building industry, to the built environment. And they have defined or they have promoted or published how green buildings can help achieve these goals. So if we are doing traditional buildings, definitely you are not able to meet these goals. But in order to meet the goals of sustainable development, especially in the built environment sector, you have to consider the guidance from World Green Building Council, which include, for example, if we are talking about good health and well-being, green buildings can improve people's health and well-being, and we will come to this in more detail later. Affordable and clean energy, one of the sustainable development goals, can be achieved through green building by using, for example, renewable energy for our buildings. Decent work and economic growth, building green infrastructure, create jobs and boost the economy. And another goal goal here is industry, innovative, and infrastructure. The green building design can also promote innovation and contribute to climate resilient infrastructure. Another goal, or goal number 11, sustainable cities and the communities can be achieved through green building because they are considered as the fabric of sustainable communities and cities. Goal here, goal number 12, responsible consumption and production can be achieved through green building by adopting the circular principles or circular economy, if you have heard about it, which promotes recycling and various efficiency in using resources. Climate action, goal number 13, green building produce fewer emissions, which can help also combat climate change. Another goal here, goal number 15, life on land. Green buildings can improve biodiversity, save water resources, and help to protect forests. The last goal, which is partnership for all the goals, which is also one of the goals of UN for Sustainable Development, can be achieved through building green. We can create strong global partnership. So as you can see, green building is really connected to the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals and trying to achieve them by various rating systems or by various codes or standards, like we'll see in a while. Let us now watch a short video.
This is Peter. Peter is a teacher. He's sure that
You can hear. Okay, good.
he leads a sustainable life. He buys organic products at the supermarket, rides to work on a bike, and his lights use green electricity. But is that really sustainable living? Let's go back to the beginning. Even in the 18th century, people were interested in the environment. For example, Carl von Carlowitz realized that you shouldn't cut down more trees than will grow again to replace them. So he had recognized the basic principle of sustainability. Nowadays, sustainability is seen as a global concept. This can be explained with the help of the three-pillar model. The model is based on environmental, economic, and social considerations, which must always be regarded as belonging together. First, the environmental pillar. It includes, among other things, climate protection, which is widespread, protection of resources, and biodiversity. Also, food should be grown organically. That is, we should stop using pesticides. And farm animals should be given fodder produced on the farm. We must use natural resources more sparingly too. One of them is petrol, which we need for our cars. But sooner or later this resource will be exhausted, so there'll be no fuel for the cars. This is why we're looking very hard for an environmentally friendly alternative, so that future generations will have environmentally friendly cars. Electric ones, for example. The next pillar is the economy, that is, business and industry. In future, at the supermarket, Peter should only find produce that's in season in his region, like strawberries in summer. Mangoes from Brazil or bananas from Colombia and Ecuador arrive by air from a very long way away. Transporting them causes a lot of pollution. The third pillar of sustainability is the social element. Goals here include, for example, better education and training opportunities, equal rights for men and women, fighting poverty, and prosperity for the whole of humanity. One beverage manufacturer from an industrialized country has quite a bit of catching up to do here. It repeatedly takes over the wells of villages in India because it needs the water to make its products there. That isn't very sustainable. Peter doesn't think so either. After all, at least a little water should be left in the wells for the Indian population. So Peter tries to do justice to the three-pillar model. When he buys organically grown produce, when he goes to work on his bike, and by using green power from wind turbines, he really does live sustainably. But be careful. A lot of companies exploit consumers' environmental awareness. Not all the products that claim to be from fair trade or organic farming are sustainable. It's up to consumers to be well informed about the products they're consuming.
So as you have seen, sustainability can be applied to different facets of life and to different human activities. Like, for example, you can have a sustainable construction, sustainable industry, sustainable education, sustainable healthcare, sustainable transportation. So it's a very wide term actually. But what we need to focus here in this course, sustainability in the built environment, or in short, we call it green building or green construction. Sustainability can be represented by three pillars. As you have seen in the video, we have a social pillar, we have environmental pillar, and we have economic pillar. This can be represented as three intersecting circles, ellipses, like you have seen in the diagram here. So actually they are not mutually exclusive. You cannot handle them away from each other. Yani whatever you do in the social side will impact the economy and will impact the environment at the same time, and vice versa. Like, for example, when you pollute the environment, you are harming the society and you are also impacting the economy of your country. If you have, for example, a very well managed society, people are healthy and strong, they will help in economy and they will help again in environment. So you cannot separate them from each other. The overlap between these three pillars or three concepts will lead you to have sustainability in whatever you are doing, in whether it is a project or industry or any human activity. Another way of illustrating sustainability shows that economy is considered a subsystem of society, and society is a subsystem of environment. And by logic, no subsystem can expand beyond the capacity of the total system of which it is a part. And you cannot run the economy on a way to destroy society or to harm society, and you cannot, society cannot behave in a way that harms the environment or consume or deplete the resources of the environment. So in general, we have now the understanding that in order to achieve sustainability in any human activities like industry, like buildings or construction industry or whatever, we need to have a balance between social, environment, and economy. Now, how this applies to our projects. Yani if we are focusing on built environment, usually we run our projects in a way to achieve certain constraints according to the PMI or Project Management Institute. For any project to be successful, it has to be delivered within three constraints: time, cost, and the quality. So you need to deliver your project on schedule, you need to deliver within budget, and you need to meet the client requirement or the owner's requirement in terms of quality of the project. This is actually the old paradigm, and this paradigm or this model cannot achieve, cannot guarantee actually to have sustainable project. If you need to have a sustainable project, you need to put a higher level of constraints, let us say sustainability constraints, in which you will have again the social aspect in terms of human satisfaction, environmental aspect in terms of minimal negative environmental impact, and the economic aspect in terms of minimal consumption of matter or energy. So in order to shift from a standard project, let us say, or the old model or the old paradigm of project development, to guarantee or to deliver a sustainable project, you need to have a paradigm shift to move from this model, which only respect the constraints of time, cost, and the quality, to another model which expand the requirements to a higher level, which achieves sustainability pillars. Also here, just a comparison between traditional buildings and the green buildings. In traditional buildings, due to urbanizations and expansion of cities, usually the wildlife habitat is destroyed because you need more land, you need more infrastructure, you need to have larger cities to meet population growth and so on. So building traditional way will destroy wildlife habitat. Also, extracting, manufacturing, and transporting materials contribute to the environmental pollution. Building operations require large inputs of energy during operation time. Also, building operation generates substantial waste streams. Building related transportation causes harmful environmental effects. Yani people are traveling from home to work or vice versa. They are using transportation, and this also helps or contributes to environmental pollution. Also, some buildings have poor indoor air quality, which causes chronic diseases to their inhabitants. And again, as we said before, this can affect our economy. If you have unhealthy population or unhealthy workforce, of course, it will be impacting your economic performance. On the other hand, green building is fundamentally a process of continual improvement. It is a process by which today's best practice become tomorrow's standard practice. Every day or every now and then we hear about more stringent codes, more stringent building regulations, and you can see that in most of the countries now they are adopting sustainability principle where they are making it harder for projects to meet the requirement because they are always raising the bar of requirement. So what is the goal of green building is to provide lower impact, more sustainable and regenerative built environment, more vital communities, more healthful indoor and outdoor spaces, and stronger connections to nature. So these are the main goals of green building. What we need to do in order to achieve sustainable development goal, we need to move from here to there. We need to move from traditional building to green building, and this will be part of our understanding of LEED on how to do this move smoothly. So environmental impacts of building, according to Environmental Protection Agency in the US, buildings and the communities include the resources used to create them and energy and water and the materials need to operate them. So here we are talking about the resources used for construction and the resources used during operation. During this use and the depletion of resources, there will be environmental and human health impacts according to the EPA. What are these impacts? In short, on summary, 14% of potable water consumption, 30% of waste output, 38% of CO2 emissions, 40% of raw materials use, 24 to 50% of energy use, 72% of electricity consumption, 15% of gross domestic product. So as you can see here, buildings are consuming a considerable amount of resources, especially when it comes to energy and electricity and also raw materials. In addition to that, it has also some form of impact on environment, which comes in the form of CO2 emissions. There are many impacts also that may happen due to construction and operation of buildings. These impacts has been determined as 13 impact categories, which include, for example, ozone depletion, acidification, smog formation, human health, non-cancer, land use, eutrophication, ecotoxicity, human health, cancer, water use, particulates, fossil fuel depletion, indoor air quality, and carbon footprint. As you can see here, we have 13 impact categories. If you just have a look on them, you will find that the main impacts are happening in the form of climate change or carbon footprint, which is related to carbon footprint, and also human health, which can be determined across several categories, like for example, human health, like for example, ecotoxicity may also impact the human health. For example, ozone depletion in some cases will impact human health as well. Particulates, which form of air pollution, again, it may impact the human health. This definition of these impacts have helped the USGBC earlier in the earlier version of LEED in 2009 to determine the weight of each requirement. This is called the credit weighing process, where they studied the impact of each credit in LEED, and based on this impact, they gave them a certain number of points in the system. We'll come to this in more detail later. Part of the environmental impact, as we have seen, is depletion of energy or consumption of energy. and this is directly connected to CO2 emissions. And you can see here the building sector is responsible about a considerable amount of CO2 emission, which is coming basically because of consuming energy and electricity in building operation and construction. In a global scale, you will find also not only in the US, because we are one world. What happens in the US definitely will have similarities in other areas of the world. You can see also here the global CO2 emissions. Again, buildings are considered number one in CO2 emissions. If you combine building operation to building material and construction, it will come almost 30% similar to what is going on in the US. Not only environmental impacts that may happen, because we said before sustainability have three pillars. One of them is only environment, but we have also social and economic impacts that can be summarized here. 10% of the global economy is dedicated to construction, operation and equipment of buildings. The built environment is growing globally at a rate that is 3 times faster than the growth of population. What does it mean? It means that there is a high rate of urbanization. People are building more. We are living in a luxurious time where people will like to live in a larger house or like that. And the movement from rural areas to urban areas, which put a high demand on built environment. Between 50s and 2000, year 2000, which is a 50-year span, the US population nearly doubled. However, demand for water has been tripled. The diagram is very small, but anyway, there is more demand on water because again, we are living in urbanization. We are moving from rural areas to urban areas, and we are building more entertainment or leisure facilities like water parks, like swimming pools, like, this kind of modern life, which put demand on water. Buildings consume 40% of energy used and 40% of raw materials, as we have seen in previous slides. One third of all buildings have serious indoor air quality problems, which can affect the occupants of these buildings in terms of health issues, which again may also have impact on our economy, because if you have sick people, they cannot produce as usual. So now let us talk in more details about green buildings and how they can help achieve sustainability goals. One of the main concepts which is usually used in when we talk about green building is called triple bottom line. It is very similar to what we have seen in sustainability, which is the three pillars model. The triple bottom line actually is the key indicator of true sustainability, because it balances between economic aspects, social aspects, and environmental aspects. Usually in a project, the reporting framework of businesses was only including one bottom line, which is called the financial bottom line. If you have a business, for example, previous in all the ages, you need to report only how much profit or losses has been accrued in your business. For example, at the end of every financial year, you have to publish or share the financial report of your company for the stakeholders or the shareholders in order to know how much the business outcomes, whether losses or profits. This is called a single bottom line model, which has been used for a long time until people has noticed or started to implement sustainability framework or sustainability reporting framework, which now requires businesses sometimes by law in certain countries. You cannot only report on financial terms, but you have also to report about social and environmental terms. So here, actually, for LEED measures sustainability of buildings based on the triple bottom line model, as we'll see in more detail later. The triple bottom line, again, aims at achieving balance between the three pillars of sustainability in terms of environmental stewardship, economic prosperity, and social responsibility. For the environmental stewardship, the model or the triple bottom line tries to benefit the planet, or at least do not harm it. This can happen by employing green building practices and minimizing carbon emissions. Social responsibility can be the goal here is to improve the lives of those with whom the building interacts, because we need also to consider people who are using our buildings by engaging with communities and exemplifying corporate responsibility. Also, in economic prosperity, we try to produce a long-term positive economic impact in which we are promoting business excellence and maintaining highest ethical standard. As you can see, the triple bottom line is not so different from sustainability pillars, but it's a sort of redefining or fine-tuning the requirements in order to correspond to the built environment. Also, we can refer to this as the 3Ps model. Some people are using different terms, but the same concept is still there, like profit, planet, and people, or 3Es: economics, ecology, and social equity. So the triple bottom line actually should be an integrated process that takes into consideration decision making and the design, along with impacts on the community and the environment. In the old days, conventional projects usually assess only the singular component of economic prosperity for the project. And usually when you used to do a feasibility study for a project before, you consider only the payback period or the return on investment, regardless of what impacts that may happen on society and economy and the environment. But this model is not a very sustainable model. That's why the triple bottom line concept here is adopted by green building. The value you get from implementing triple bottom line includes in terms of environment or the planet, reducing pollution, preserving resources, and implementing recycling or reuse. In terms of social or people, the side of people, health and well-being, equal opportunities, ethics and justice. In terms of economics or profit, it gives you cost savings because you are operating more efficiently and you are saving on energy consumption and other resources. Cash incentives in some cases may happen in certain areas of the world. They incentivize you if you go for green building certification or if you implement sustainable measures. Also increase the revenue for the building owner because usually the green buildings are a better product. So you expect more profit or more revenue from such projects. Let us now watch a short video about green building and how USGBC defines green buildings.
What is green building? It's an integrative process that focuses on the relationship between the built environment and the natural environment. Buildings can have both positive and negative impacts on their surroundings, as well as the people who inhabit them every day. Reduced energy and water use, healthy indoor environmental quality, smart material selection, and the building's effects on its site are key considerations of a green building. Sound familiar? It should, as these elements mirror the different credit categories within the LEED rating system. These buildings cause less harm and do more good, which creates a more sustainable environment for all. LEED acts as a decision-making framework for project teams during the life cycle of a building, which includes planning, design, construction, and operations. LEED rewards best practices, innovation, and recognizes exemplary performance with different levels of certification. In other words, LEED is green building.
So as you have seen, USGBC is considering a project which goes for LEED as a green building. However, not only LEED is available in the market, there is many rating systems available and you can apply for them. As long as you are meeting the principles of green building, your building will be considered as a green building. Now, how can we define a green building? A green building may take different forms and different definitions, but to make things simple for everyone to understand, we have here some sort of image you can see where the building has added some different measures or implementations in order to perform more efficiently and save on resources and also reduce impact on environment and community. So generally, a green building, not the building itself can be defined, but we need to define the process, because if you follow the same steps or if you follow the same process, the standard process of buildings, you will end up by a standard building. This is the logic. But if you need to have a better product, if you need to improve the product, the end product of this process, you have to look into the process itself and try to optimize it and adjust it in order to have a better building or green building. So here, The definition says like that: it is the integrated effort of transforming the way built environments are designed, constructed, operated, and maintained. So here we are covering the whole process from beginning to end, from design until operation and maintenance, that encourages involvement from early planning to beyond the end of a structure's life. So everybody, all the stakeholders must be engaged in this process in order to guarantee it can achieve its goals, and by result we will get green building or a better building. The purpose of optimizing the process is to reduce or eliminate the negative impacts of buildings and the environment on and the occupants in 5 broad areas. These areas we call them green building areas or green building aspects, which you can find them in almost every green building rating system. Will address mainly these 5 areas. These 5 areas include sustainable site planning, safeguarding water and water efficiency, energy efficiency and renewable energy, conservation of materials and resources, and indoor environmental quality. So if you look into any green building rating system, you will find that these categories or these areas or aspects of our built environment are addressed in any green building rating system, and this will be converted later in LEED itself. It will be in the form of categories. We will have later a category called site, a category called energy, a category called water, material, indoor, and like. So basically, we need to address these areas of the built environment in order to make sure that we cover everything related to green building. Let us now go through some concepts related to green buildings. First concept here: green buildings usually are regenerative projects. The regenerative projects are projects that support the health of the local community and regional ecosystem. These projects usually generate energy, and sometimes they can sell the excess to the grid or to the network. So you can have, for example, a house or an office building where you generate electricity on your own from renewable sources, and then you suffice your operation. After you have enough electricity, you may have some excess of this energy. You can even sell it to the market or to the grid. It improves the hydrology system by being more efficient in water consumption and stormwater and rainwater management, for example. Sometimes it produces food, so that's why we can say it is a regenerative project. You may have, for example, a house and you have a backyard or a garden where you can produce your food, and you can even sell the excess of this food to the market. It enhances biodiversity, so it has less impact on the environment and the ecosystem. It also provides community network. Adaptive reuse is another concept of green building, where redesigning and using a structure from a use that is significantly different from the building's original use. So suppose you have, for example, an existing building. This building was used as a factory, for example, and then you need to build an office building. Okay, you have 2 options here: whether to seek for a new area of land and start building a new office building on this new area of land, otherwise to buy this old building if it is not used by anyone else, and you can just refunction or reutilize this building into a factory, for example. You can convert it to an office building, and this case has happened many times in different areas of the world. People are usually trying to, sometimes it is even economically viable. You can save money on that, and you can make better decisions by avoiding to develop new land. Question here from Mr. Dawood: is this what is the concept of Ras Abu Aboud Stadium? Yes. Lusail Stadium, not necessarily Lusail Stadium. Ras Abu Aboud is maybe a clear example of that, but usually when we talk about adaptive reuse, which is usually you are using an existing building. In Ras Abu Aboud, there is actually some buildings or some facilities which was existing on site, and it have been included in the master plan of the stadium. So you can consider this adaptive reuse. I am not sure about Lusail Stadium, but I think Lusail doesn't have existing building utilization, maybe. I'm not sure. So anyway, a project that is retrofit an existing building to operate at a high level of performance. This is what we call adaptive reuse. And we will see this one even in LEED. It will help the project earn points by using existing building instead of developing new areas of land, which has many benefits actually. Some of them, for example, to limit the urban sprawl. Yani you are reducing the urban expansion by reusing an existing land or existing building. Another concept here related to green building, which is called the net zero energy. Net zero energy projects use no more energy from the grid than they generate on site. The same concept we have seen before. You may have, for example, renewable energy system on your project, and you can use this renewable energy. If you have on the grid where you are connected to is considering what we call net metering. The net metering is measuring electricity plus or minus. And if you are taking from the grid, it will be charged on your account. If you are selling back to the grid, it will be paid back for you. So this is what we call net metering, and it will help the projects to become net zero energy. Carbon neutrality, you will hear this term always when it comes to green building. These projects, the green projects, usually emit no more carbon emissions than a project can either sequester or capture or offset. So here we are reducing the carbon footprint of the building by becoming carbon neutral, or we are offsetting the impact of carbon emissions by several measures on our project. Water balance is another concept here in green building. Again, similar to net zero energy, we can say here the project is net zero water if the project use no more water than that which falls on site as precipitation. Again, you can say also the green building may be net zero waste. There is no waste at all. The green projects produce zero waste by salvaging, reusing, recycling, or composting all materials used during construction and operation. These concepts are not mandatory. What we mean here, we need you to understand these concepts because it will be relevant to different credits and requirements in LEED and green building in general. But it is not necessary. Not every project will be net zero. Not every project will have zero waste. But what we need to understand here is that green projects usually will be better performing in these areas rather than having a standard project. The green projects will usually have better performance comparing to a standard project when it comes to all of these concepts. Relative to green building also is what we call systems thinking. Another comment here from Mr. Dawood before we proceed. He's saying net zero is mandatory requirements in UK now. I'm not sure about that, but it may be, but I don't think it is becoming mandatory. It may be some sort of encouragement. They are encouraging people to become net zero or to approach to net zero, to generate electricity. He said by 2050. This is ultimate goal, actually. This is ultimate goal for most of the governments. Maybe some people put a goal for 2050, some others put for different dates, but in general, there is a global target of net zero by 2050 in some countries like the UK. Thank you for this comment, Mr. Dawood. Okay, relative to green building concepts, we have a concept called systems thinking. You can think of your project or your building as a system which is composed of nested systems, system inside the system inside the system. So if we can say, for example, what is the building is composed of? We have an envelope system. The envelope system is the walling system, the roofing system, the glazing, which is composed as the envelope of the building. Then within this building, you have also air conditioning system. You have lighting system, you have control system, and so on. And even for each of these systems, you may have smaller components. So each part of these systems can be considered a system by itself. So we have a hierarchy of systems in any project. The system thinking approach is encouraging you to handle the project as one whole. You have one whole system, which is composed of several subsystems. So what will happen if a component is not performing well? Like, for example, if you have a car and the radiator system or the cooling system of the car is not working well, what will happen? Of course, the car cannot perform well, or maybe it will break down. This is the same concept here. If you have a building and you did not design the subsystems very well, or you did not consider the efficiency of every part of this system, it will impact the overall performance of the building. And vice versa. If you need to improve the building as overall system, if you need to enhance the performance of the overall building, you need to look into these smaller parts of the system and try to design it in a better way and make it more efficient. And the accumulated efficiency of these small parts of the system will lead to having a better performing building or a better performing overall system. We have two types of systems that can be considered. Open systems refers to usually a system which is using resources one time. And for example, you need to use a countertop made of marble, and you cut the marble from raw material and you used it, and after some time you demolish the kitchen and you removed the marble. You removed it, you put it in the landfill, you disposed the marble. So here we have an open system which is consuming the resources one time. Closed systems are better and more sustainable because they are trying to reuse or recycle the resources several times. Yani, for example, you can use some material, for example, plastic material or whatever, and after that, after some time, you don't dispose it, but you can recycle it into a new material. Here, the material or the raw material will go in a cycle or in a closed system where it can convert from time to time to a different type of material. Hope concrete is a part of open system. Thank you, Mr. Omar, for this question, but usually it's up to you. And for example, in the same example I have given before, which is a marble countertop, suppose that I used the marble countertop, and after a few years I decided to change the marble countertop, but I didn't dispose of the marble. I can, for example, convert it to another use. So I am reusing it in another form. Or maybe I can crush it and use it as part of files or like that. Using concrete one time may be an open system if you decided after demolishing the building to dispose the concrete. But in some cases, for example, you can get this concrete and crush it and use it as a sub-base, for example, or use it in a different use or recycle it into another component. So it depends on you actually to decide whether to have an open system or closed system. Any system, as you might know, must have a feedback loops. Feedback loops will give us information about how the system is performing, and it will help the system itself to organize itself. Like for example, if you have an air conditioning, okay, and you set the temperature to 24 degrees. So if the room temperature reach to more than 24 degrees, the system will operate and it will provide cooling. And once it reaches to the 24 degrees, it will switch off, or yani, the cooling system will switch off, and again the cycle will repeat itself. So this is what we call negative feedback loop. Negative feedback loop will help the system to self-correct. It will help any system to take a decision in order to optimize its performance. Okay. On the other hand, we have some feedback loops which you can consider as positive feedback loops, in which it is the system will help the system to generate more of its impact. And for example, let us look into population. Population growth is happening, and the more population happen, okay, will lead to more people to be born, and more people will be born, will lead to more population, and so on. Okay, so this is what we call positive feedback. It is self-reinforcement. And it is doing a self-reinforcement to the system itself. Let us look into, for example, global warming. Global warming leads to the melting of the North and South Pole ice, and then the snow is white color, and it is rejecting the absorption of solar energy. And if we have less snow, what will happen? More dark surface will be there, and it will magnify the global warming impact. So the more global warming, it is yani, accelerating itself. Let us think about it like that. There is a self-acceleration or self-reinforcement due to this positive feedback loops. So in general, feedback loops are information. If we are not measuring the information coming from the system, we cannot control the system. Yani if you don't know the temperature right now in the room, or the system doesn't know the temperature in the room, how can it adjust itself? And if we cannot measure or take surveys of the population every year, we don't know where the country or where the people are going. So that's why this is the purpose of having this kind of census that is done every year, so that we know how much people are there, and we make some trends or forecasts to see how these developments are going. So in general, systems must have feedback loops in order to help them optimize and control. Also, part of feedback loops is to have a leverage points, or part of our understanding of the systems is to have leverage points. The leverage points are places where a small intervention can yield large changes. يعني for example, if you need to optimize energy consumption in a building, you have two options here, okay? You may change the whole systems of energy inside your building into a more efficient buildings, okay? But this might cost you a lot of money. There is another option is to educate your building occupants. So this is what we call leverage point. Instead of taking the hard decision or the hard solution of fixing a problem in the system, we look into some decisions that can help optimize the systems with minimum impact on cost, for example, or any other measure. Like, for example, if you provided information for the building occupants about the real-time energy consumption, and you give some incentives, for example, for them to switch off the AC, to switch off lighting, or like that, you make them aware about the issue, they will definitely help reduce consumption without any extra investment in the systems itself. So this is an example of leverage point that can be used, which is usually they refer to this idea as triage effect, where people can intervene with the system in order to make it more efficient. Another concept in green building, usually we'll talk about it in more detail later, is called the life cycle approach. Life cycle approach is for a building starts before a site has been selected, so is even from the feasibility study stage, and expands to design, construction, operations, and the refurbishments and the renovation of a building. So here, the impact of the building is not only starting upon operation. Yani you have to look into the historical background, where the project start, or maybe even before the project start, what decisions has been taken, and you have to look into the future as well. So you have to look from the historical background until the future information, and to combine all of this together into what we call life cycle approach. You cannot judge any project without having the full picture of its life cycle. This can be handled in a project in two areas or two ideas. Like, for example, life cycle costing. You can look into the purchase prices, fuel, installation, operation, maintenance, disposal, finance charges, and the replacement cost. All the costs associated with the project can be considered from the day the site was selected until, for example, let us say 10 years or 20 years during operation. This is called the life cycle costing. And the life cycle costing is a principle that will help you to realize the benefits of green building. Because usually when you are investing in a project to optimize its performance, maybe people will come to you and say, for example, green building is costly, they need more money, the cost is more comparing to a standard building. But this is not the whole story, because you are looking only on the initial cost of the project. Initial cost cannot judge the full performance. You can buy, for example, or invest a certain amount of money in the project today in order to enhance its performance, but this amount of money will be paid back to you through operation time. For example, after 5 years or after 7 years, you will pay back the amount you have invested in form of cost savings that is coming from energy, from water, from waste, from any other performing aspect of your under the life cycle costing, we consider several types of cost, like hard cost, which is considered any cost that is invested in elements of the project, like, for example, concrete, steel, flooring, finishes, furniture. All these are considered as hard cost. Soft cost also may include other costs associated with the project, but is not having a physical element, like, for example, the cost of design, the cost of project management, the finance of the bank, for example, if there is interest or like that. This is called soft cost. You can handle also life cycle costing if you are familiar with CAPEX, OPEX term. CAPEX refers to capital expenses, which is relevant to the initial cost of the project, and OPEX, operation expenses, which is relevant to the cost that is required to run the project during operation. Relevant to the life cycle approach, we have also life cycle assessment. The life cycle costing is addressing cost of the project. Life cycle assessment is addressing the environmental impact. So here we identify and quantify environmental effects through the life of material, product, or building. And this concept can be applicable not only for building, but also for any component of the building. Yani if you have, for example, air conditioning system, if you have material, if you have any element of the building, you can conduct a life cycle assessment in order to identify and quantify the environmental impacts. So to do life cycle assessment, you have to look into the process within a certain range, and you have to define this range, for example, from being raw material until selling in the market, or maybe until a number of years during operation and so on. So it depends on the scope of the life cycle assessment. You will determine the time range of the study, and then you can get some inputs from the process, and using certain tools or softwares, it can help you to get or identify the process outputs, which will give you indication or idea about how this product or element or item or material is impacting the environment. We will come to these concepts in more details when we talk about the material category. So why build green? The business case of green is based on the benefits that can happen or can be accrued from building green. So there are many benefits actually, according to the USGBC. There is energy use reduction from 24% to 50%. There is a reduction in CO2 emissions from 33% to 39%. There is water use reduction almost 40%. There is also solid waste reduction almost 70%. So green buildings can help reduce several impacts or several components of the building operation and the maintenance, and also it is good for the environment. It is part of achieving sustainability goals. There is also some advantages. If you have a green building, you can utilize the building in order to benefit, and you get some advantages comparing to traditional buildings. The General Service Administration, or GSA, is the administration in the US which is responsible about developing and operating and maintenance of governmental buildings. They have a large stock of buildings. Some of these buildings are certified as green buildings, some of them are not certified or traditional buildings. They have done a study and they have published this study, and then from the output or the conclusion of the study, they found that when you compare green buildings to traditional buildings, you will find that the green buildings are requiring 30% lower maintenance cost, which is helping them. If you have more green buildings, it means that you will have better budget or better economical performance. 26% lower energy usage. They are saving on energy due to the improved system parameters or system aspects. 27% of higher building user satisfactions. Their employees who are working on these buildings are more happy, more productive, and more healthy comparing to employees who are working on traditional buildings. This is actually almost 27%. 33%, the carbon footprint of these buildings are improved comparing to standard buildings by 33%, which is lower CO2 emissions level. Okay, let us now watch a short video about green building benefits as defined by USGBC.
We care about our health. We care about our resources. We care about energy consumption. What if we cared as much about the places where we live, learn, work, and play? A LEED certified building uses fewer natural resources and saves water and energy. LEED creates healthy spaces, keeping the bad out and bringing the good in, and saves money over time. Live, learn, work, and play. For more information, visit usgbc.org.
So you have seen the benefits of green buildings. Let us now align the benefits of green buildings in accordance to triple bottom line concept. So in the economical benefit, or the economical side, green buildings reduce operating costs, enhance asset value and the profit, improve occupant satisfaction and the productivity, optimize life cycle economical performance. On the social aspect, green buildings enhance occupant comfort and health, minimize strain on local infrastructure, provide air, thermal and acoustic environment, improve overall quality of life. On the environmental aspect, green buildings enhance and protect biodiversity and the ecosystem, improve water, land, and air quality, reduce waste streams, conserve and restore natural resources. So it is good for everyone actually to adopt green building, because as you can see, there is a lot of benefits. Some of them are tangible and can be calculated and coming in the form of real money or real benefits like the economical side. Some of them are indirect or intangible in terms like, for example, improving the health of occupants and benefiting the environment or reducing impacts on the environment. Generally, green buildings are better than standard building, whether you are convinced by the value of these buildings or not, but at the end, you will get a better product if you adopt green building. Now let us watch a case study that will summarize many concepts about green building. Alstom is a giant group operating in several countries worldwide. This group is developing projects and especially infrastructure projects, and they have adopted the sustainability concept and the green building concept for their facilities. And they are demonstrating what they have done in their initiative in this short video. Let us watch it.
From time immemorial, humans have built in order to protect themselves and their possessions. Today, it's the turn of buildings to help protect their environment. During the 1960s, we discovered that buildings can be sick with harmful components or lead or asbestos in walls and ductwork that pose a silent threat to their occupants. We also became aware of how important it is to insulate buildings to avoid wasting energy. This is true of industrial sites too, in terms of pollutant emissions, noise, and uncontrolled energy use. So when we build residential buildings, office buildings, and industrial sites, we need to preserve both the environment and the well-being of their occupants. Since that time, architects have been drawing on the principles of sustainability when they design and construct buildings. It was in the late 1960s that sustainable building was born. Given these circumstances, how can manufacturers ensure that their facilities worldwide are eco-designed to operate efficiently and effectively? It's a sizable challenge. The goal is to reduce the ecological footprint of industrial buildings, both as they are being built and throughout their lifespan, while ensuring that their occupants have the best possible working conditions. To do that, architects consider several sustainable building criteria. A green building is energy efficient thanks to its level of insulation, the direction it faces, its use of renewable energy, its heating and air conditioning systems, and its positive energy balance. Buildings are also eco-friendly if they reduce energy consumption and recycle their wastewater, if they optimize the quality of their sound insulation, and if they are accessible via public transport. And obviously, green buildings use materials and equipment that are friendly to people and the environment. So they'll make greater use of local suppliers, and they'll include materials such as wood that generate smaller amounts of carbon dioxide as they are produced. There's no doubt that eco-friendly buildings, and industrial sites in particular, require a bigger investment at the outset, but because they consume less energy, the operating, maintenance, and upkeep costs are reduced over time. Since these facilities are more comfortable and more efficient, thanks to improved ergonomics, they allow for better use of the workspace. There are several certification bodies that monitor compliance with these criteria. LEED certification from the US emphasizes the environmental issues posed by eco-construction, while France's HQE certification is more concerned with the comfort of those using the building, and the UK's BREEAM considers both these criteria equally. By constructing eco-friendly buildings, companies play a major role in promoting sustainable development within the economy. With Alstom, commitment to green construction can be seen in the eco-friendly buildings the group continues to design, several of which have obtained one or more of these certifications, and in the steps it's taking to evaluate the performance of its existing sites. In addition, the group's new sites are all eco-friendly, and several are even pilot sites. Every new group site needs to address two major issues. How can we comply more closely with international standards? How can we create a more standardized building process worldwide? For instance, take the new Chattanooga plant that opened in the United States in June 2010. It won gold certification under the LEED program for building energy efficiency because energy consumption was reduced by 35%. Today, skylights provide 75% of the lighting in the site's occupied areas. The heat generated by the manufacturing process is channeled to the site's HVAC system. Rainwater is collected and used to irrigate the land. And that's not all. In 2012, the site unveiled its first solar panel network, providing 56 kilowatts of installed capacity. Alstom is also renovating its oldest buildings in order to reduce their environmental impact and operating costs. In April 2012, the group completed its redesign of the Tarbes-Semiac site. The buildings are better insulated, while the various departments and workshops are laid out more efficiently. They have the very latest electrical devices for monitoring energy-intensive equipment, such as dimmers and motion detectors, to reduce the use of lighting. Thanks to high-efficiency heat pumps and a double-flow CMV system, the site captures 80% of the heat it generates. Photovoltaic panels with annual capacity of nearly 800 megawatts per hour have also been installed at the site, enough to provide electricity to 100 homes. And there's a special parking area designed to encourage car sharing among employees. As a result, the site has cut its energy costs by 25% and its consumption of natural gas by 60%, while employees enjoy more efficient and more pleasant working conditions. Alstom is already operating several sustainably built plants, and their number is growing. They include Camaçari in Brazil, Newcastle, Amarillo, and Charleroi in the United States, Wuhan, Tianjin and Shanghai in China, Chennai in India, and Ufa in Russia, plus in France the plants in Massy, Belfort, Saint-Ouen, and soon Villeurbanne and Montpellier. Around the world, these changes are helping Alstom improve employee working conditions and make each site more environmentally efficient and more productive. With Alstom, eco-construction is making sustainable development a key factor in keeping the group competitive.
So as you have seen, this is just summarizing the benefits of green building, which has been adopted by this giant group of companies.